All right, welcome back. Let's learn how to create activities and to launch them in code. The one that we're going to be aiming for here is actually what's called a scrolling activity. This is just one of the ones that you get for free. It's a template that you can choose. All right, so to make one of these new activities, we're just going to use the activity wizard. Super simple to use. It's going to do three things for us. So the first thing is that it's going to create a Java class that extends activity. With everything that you need included in the onCreate, and that loads the layout, all that kind of stuff. Second, it's going to create the layout file. Again, we've seen this whenever we make a new project, right? We're having these things happen because we usually choose an activity to start with. And then third, it's gonna register it in the Android manifest. All right. So we've seen all this when we've made new projects, but now this is also going to work if we want to add an activity to an existing project. All right. So we're going to do that now. We're going to make a new scrolling activity. So this is one that just shows up some information about material design, as we saw on that last slide right here. So just some information right here. So we're going to call it an info activity, and we're going to have its parent be main activity. So in other words, if we hit the back button, that's where it's going to go. All right, so let's do that. So in Android Studio, I'm going to go ahead, and there's different ways you can do it. You can do File, New. I often like to take my my package and right-click, and then do New Activity, and I'll go over. This one's going to be a scrolling activity. The name of it, I want to call Info Activity. Layout name looks perfect. The title, I use the same thing. I'll just put a space in it. I don't want it to be a launcher activity, although I could, but really I'm eventually going to be calling it from my main activity. The parent, as we said, is going to be the main activity. Package is fine, and I'll click Finish. Okay, so that created this info activity right here, and I'm all excited. I want to run the thing, right? How would I do that, right? So I'll mention here, first of all, that our info activity is created, and you can see it showing up right here. One thing you'll notice is that the intent filter is still set to main activity. If I wanted to just literally move this over and run it, then I'd see the scrolling activity. But hang on for a minute, we're going to run it from within our program anyway. I just wanted to let you know how that worked, right? In fact, we get a slide for that right here. Just super simple. Take your intent filter, move it down into here, and it will run. You could test it in isolation if you needed to. It's worth mentioning here, since inside this intent filter we have a couple of things, right? So one is that we have a main action that's associated with it, and again, it means that it expects no data when it starts up here. And this we also have a category as launcher, which means that we're going to be using this activities icon in the launcher app. All right. So not that much. All right. So we said that the activity wizard did three things for us. There's actually a fourth step if you want to launch the activity from another activity, and that's to create what's called an intent and start an activity using that intent. And then later on, we'll see that we can actually add extras to the intent to pass information back and forth between activities. Right. So a little bit more about this right here, activities and intents. So we mentioned, that you need to create an intent. So the documentation here says that an intent is basically an abstract description of some operation that we want to perform, right? So, and if we read on, provides a facility for performing late runtime binding between the code in different applications. So even at runtime, you can actually choose different intents out of different apps. Okay, what the biggest use right here, as far as we're concerned, is going to be to launch activities where intents can be thought of as the glue between activities, right? So basically how they're held together. There's a little bit more information about how to use them with receivers and everything that we'll probably revisit later in the course. But let's actually do this right now within our app, and it's very simple. The way that we're going to set it up is when we click this little info button. So when that option item is selected, we're going to do two things. Like we said, we're going to go ahead and create. Here's the intent object. I'll just call it info intent. So I'm going to construct one, and it's going to take two parameters. First of all is going to be a context that you need, which is going to be our current activity. And then second, you need the class of the activity that's going to be launched. All right, so you pass in info activity.class. And then all activities have a method called start activity that you can use with an intent that will actually launch the other activity. Let's try it out. All right, so going in here into my main activity, we want this to launch the info activity. So I'm going to scroll down to the on options item selected. And within here, we'll say make an intent. And you can choose the name of it. Sometimes I just use intent. Let's see, new intent and context. All right. And the second parameter here is a class. So the new one that we just made was, was called info activity dot class. And then we will start the activity passing in that intent to it. And we can run it and see how it does. Looks like I forgot an import here. So let's see. Yep, got it now. Try again. All right, so I've got it running here, and let's try this out. So here's my main activity, and I'm going to click on the info button here, and this should, there we go. It launches our info activity, and since we've specified the parent, well, let's play for a second before I talk anymore. So this guy's kind of neat. This is a scrolling activity if you've never used him before. As we scroll down sort of all the way, you see that this guy kind of expands or not. So kind of a neat things. Since we hit, we called the parent to be the main activity, we get this little arrow right here. So we can click back on this guy and we'll go back up to main. It'd also be the same thing if we had gone here and then click the back button, right? Then it's also going to go back. Right. And that's really all we got going on in this last slide here. Just talks a little bit about that. We can mention here that when we go to the scrolling activity, that the main activity is still there, and it's on what we call a back stack. So if we're going to hit back, it's going to pop the scrolling activity off of that. So that the main activity is back on top, and that's going to be running. Because it was obscured, on pause had been called, so that callback actually did happen there. Now on this one, we got the arrow. If you ever had to force it to do that, if for some reason it didn't show up but you wanted it, in your child activities on create, here's a line of code that you can put in here to display home as up, and then if we had forgotten to set the parent activity at the time that we had made it, this is what it did in the activity in the manifest. I just basically set the parent activity name. All right. That's all we got for this lesson. We'll see you next time.